to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Here we are. It's Monday. It is episode 468 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Adam Ponophobia Cogswell here in the driver's seat for this week, joined by Marine Revenge, Santana Champagne, and Dom. I don't know how many Doms. I'm just going to keep going until it stops.
Too many.
There's only two.
I know.
Once you nom, the fun
That's
don't
too
stop.
many.
Well, yeah, but Dom, I'm pretty sure is taken.
That's because you're not trying hard enough.
I'm gonna check now.
It's taken, Dom. It's gone. It's gone. So, you guys are listening
He's played recently.
yeah, of course.
Unlucky.
Is he also Diamond?
No, Silver 4.
Oh, she doesn't need that account.
That's an insult.
Well, you guys are listening to the Trinity Force Podcast. For those of you that are brand new and that just found us and are listening for one of the first times or, first time this month, we are a League of Legends podcast. We appreciate you being around here. Tonight we are going to talk about listener questions plus a few other pieces about Ornn and potentially Warwick as well. But before we jump into that, if you would like to support the podcast, you can head over to buddhaboxers.com/tforce using code Trinity Force for 20% off your entire order. The Buddha boxers are fantastic bamboo boxers that will help wick away the sweat, keep you nice and cool as you're gaming. I'm literally wearing a pair right now, and I have been comfortable all day. Better than any other I have. I have a bunch of like Hanes and Fruit of the Loom and whatnot in my drawer, and I purposely go out of my way to wash these all the time and try to wear them as much as possible. So I really need to go stock up and buy a few more pairs. But if you want to, Buddha Boxers, that's BUDDHA boxers.com/TForce. Use code TrinityForce for 20% off your entire order. And thank you for Buddha Boxers for sponsoring us this week. So, along with this week, we always have the weekly challenge. And I'm going to have to ask Dom to start putting the old weekly challenge in the document as well as the new weekly challenge, just so I can always reference it.
Oh, no.
Formal request for the show going forward, please. Last week's challenge was a fun one. One of the ones that I really enjoyed was that I wanted everybody to try to get to level 2, 1 minion before the enemy later, and then either all in them or try to zone them from the wave. And so if you have any feedback on that one or you enjoyed doing that weekly challenge, you can email us, feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. And now this week's weekly challenge is you should look at the game clock at the start of every wave and make a note of it. You can either write it down, make a mental note of it, but what we're trying to do here is to get you have a good idea of where the game is at every time that you are, you can tell it's 6 minutes in, it's 7 minutes in, it's 8 minutes in, so you get a better idea of when you're hitting what landmark when it comes to items or CS or whatever. But it's always a good idea to have a mental idea of what time it is because it really helps you track the jungler. So all these little pieces will come together as you start doing them. And this is probably the ones I struggle with. I generally look at the time every time I go back for the most part. I don't really look at the time clock too often unless I'm unless like the top laner, if they gank top lane, I'm like, all right, well, it's 2:33 minutes. That means they'll be down here about a minute and a half, and then I gotta try to pay attention to it.
And you still die to that gank.
We haven't been dying to bottom lane ganks very often anymore. Like that was a problem with Dom and myself early in the season. We were pushing really hard. I know we had talked about that previously, fixing that, but I don't know how you're feeling about that. I don't think we died to bottom lane ganks much.
In Adam's defense, knowing that the gank is coming doesn't mean that I won't still try to 1v2 and get the kill.
Yeah, we haven't been dying as much. I don't know. I feel like we haven't been getting ganked much, but I've been playing a lot more than you, so it might just be like all of my games bleeding together and feeling like, oh, I'm not getting ganked nearly as much. I don't know why I'm not getting ganked as much, because like we're in a protect the 80 carry stage of the game right now, so like you just shut that guy down early. Boom, done. But what do I know?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of nothing.
You've
right?
also been playing like a bunch of Tristana and like Sivir, who are a lot harder to gank, as opposed to Jhin, who is comparatively easy.
Sitting duck.
Yeah.
Oh God, what was that Talon game? Where it was something. I was playing something earlier this week. I forgot what I was. I think I was on Talon, and like Jhin just ulted me in a bush, and I'm like, you realize you just die here, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like one rotation.
That's at the end of it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, Stand and Still doesn't really work out too well right now. No.
You know what? I hate this meta. I think this meta is really boring.
Yeah,
course
I
you do.
agree, dude. The shield healing and like the tanks that never die and the AD carry that you can never reach, not fun.
I don't like feeling like picking something other than a shielding or healing support is actively setting my team back.
I
Because
like
I love
Tristana.
I love playing Alistar. Everybody knows that and everything. And I just sort of look at Alistar right now. It's like I could play Alistar, but I mean, we got to wait 20 minutes before I'm really going to be able to do anything because picking a fight in bot lane is not going to turn out for shit. So,
Right, and like I play a lot of Jace, I play a lot of TF, and it feels really bad just to like TF poured in on their AD carry, get your rotation off, and you do no damage because they got shielded and locketed, and then you got knocked away because Janna. Yeah.
but otherwise, I'm enjoying it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like
sure.
Taric.
Taric's fun. Taric's okay. Taric's manly. I like Taric.
I guess I don't like that there is a requirement that I rush one item, irrespective of everything else going on. Like, I hate that the only decision for me is to rush Ardent Sensor. Unless Jhin is my AD carry, then I get to actually think about it.
Yeah, like even there's been a shift, even like in higher elos and pro play, where you just if you play Janna, the AD carry is starting to take Targon's Brace, and the Janna's running like all 80 quints or not 80 quints, GP 10 quints, so she can get her Ardent Sensor faster.
Mitch has actually been doing that when he gets filled to support.
And it's just like that at that point when the meta's warping that hard, so you hit your first power spike on Ardent Sensor, I feel like that's a problem.
It's definitely a problem.
When the meta depends on the support hitting an item-specific power spike, I think there's a lot of problems
Yeah.
with that item.
But we're not going to see any changes till preseason, or till post-Worlds anyway.
So
Hopefully
more-
that means only like 2 patches, right?
Yeah, but that also means like 2.5 months away because Worlds.
Yeah, that also means Worlds is going to be played on the Ardent Sensor meta. Because it doesn't look like Ardent Sensor is being touched in this next patch.
Nope.
And what was weird is over the weekend, at least in North America, they were not playing the Ardent Sensor supports.
Because
So
for some reason, NA's got a really big hard-on for Rakan.
they were
and
playing they were playing Thresh and Braum more than anything else.
I don't know. We saw some Blitzcrank too. NA's got some weird ideas of what's going on right now.
Which bodes well for us in at Worlds.
And everybody else is playing. Everyone else is also playing weird shit, right? Like they're playing the Ardent Sensor meta, but we're seeing like Bondus Stone, Ardent Sensor Morgana.
Bondus Sejuani jungle with Ardent Sensor Rush.
Well,
that's
that's
fun.
fine. Like that's what they do on Twisted Tree Line anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
When the Twisted Tree Line meta carries over.
Yeah,
to
no,
Summoner's
there
Rift
is that.
issue.
There is that.
I don't know. There is a problem. Like you Santana said, I think there is a problem with that item, and the fact that more than the support is rushing it. Not necessarily rushing it, but getting it at some point in the game. Like Orianna, for example, will pick that item up. And
I've gotten it on Nidalee before. I've seen other Nidalees get it. I've seen Oriannas get it. It's just like, all right, guys, this might be a little much now.
yeah, when you could forego extra damage just to pick up something that bolsters your AD carry or top laner, I think you are a damage dealer in and of yourself. I think there's that right there starts screaming problem.
Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing a shift in bans. Either it's like 6 or 7 junglers are getting banned in one game, or it's Twitch, Tristana, Caitlyn,
Janna, Lulu, Taric.
Janna, Lulu, like and then it's just like all the bot lane bans in one game. Like I've been seeing very little, like earlier in the season, we're seeing a lot of Pantheon bans in solo queue just because of how strong he was, and all the things you usually see like Yasuo and all that fun stuff. We're seeing that fall off just because people are like, I don't really want to play against Tristana, Twitch, Sivir every game. Because...
Every time I leave Tristana up, she gets picked first rotation by the enemy team, and like the first thing I do is I'm like, fuck, why didn't I ban Tristana? Oh, probably because I was the one who banned Janna on my team and nobody else is paying attention. It's just like But I only get the one ban now, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've been banning Warwick a lot more recently. I was banning Draymond for a
I
little
hate
bit.
Warwick
too,
for
but-
some reason.
Warwick's really good, dude.
He's good. I don't know if he's like my go-to ban.
I don't know.
He's not like a go-to man, but sorry to cut you off, Dom. But like, I agree that he's like really strong. But I think he's like right on that cusp of like, there are people I need to ban more. But if Warwick was any better, or if there was more bans, he'd be on the table.
You guys are also at like the diamond MMR threshold, and I feel like below mid plat, Warwick is just running away with games. Because like, and I've fortunately had the Warwicks on my team of late, so I've been really okay with it. But just the number of games that the junglers playing Warwick have just totally run away with the show has outright startled me.
Yeah, because he gets around a lot of the problems people have jungling, right? He has really good sustain. He's got really good clear when he gets Tiamat. He's got pretty good dueling potential with his kit. He's got
hard to kill.
And he's really, really fast because someone is generally below the threshold that allows his blood scent to proc.
he's got a percentage
so he
damage
can be
reduction.
the biggest thing is the speed, right? He can be out of position compared to other junglers, way out of position, and he can close the gap with his W passive and his ult range. It's like pretty ridiculous. That's probably the strongest thing about him.
Also, people are really getting used to the nuances in his kit. For example, I was watching, I think it was Dom or somebody playing Warwick, and
That was definitely Chira if it was anybody.
no, I will dominate, not you.
Oh,
I see a
okay,
Warwick in the background.
Yeah, there's a puppy. But like
Eh.
you just hold Q and it follows everything, and people are just realizing like how to get use this. Like he was holding it, and then Lucian dashed, he Q'd onto him, held through the Lucian Q, popped W, and killed him under tower. And it's like, all right, people are getting really good at using the little mechanics in his kit now, and he's a strong jungler just in general.
The amount of sustain he gets like makes screw ups on him really, really forgiving.
It's not just sustain either. It's damage reduction. He's got 20% at least out of his E. And
Yeah, I
so
mean,
he's just he's a big tanky powerhouse that is hard to move. And that's why we see a lot of Twitch being picked, right? Because Twitch or Sonic can fire from the back lines from a good safe distance and shred through these tanks. But the others that were doing so well earlier, the shorter ranged marksmen aren't doing as well because they can't stand toe to toe with a Warwick and make it out alive because Warwick's got enough damage through his kit while he's gaining more lifesteal and more attack speed as he's going lower in life. So yeah, I've been like when we play together. Generally speaking, I'm banning Warwick because I'm just sick of seeing that champion go down 2 kills and then still come back and potentially have the potential to run away with the game due to the nature of how quick he can move around the map. Yeah,
I mean, he's not super popular, and that's the one thing stopping me from screaming ban him every game. Like Janna and Tristana, you are going to see them if you leave them up. That's just the reality of the situation right now. So like you really have to think hard about why you're leaving them up if there is any reason for it, and that's not the case with Warwick.
God, yeah, I'm so sick of the. I like these metas. I like this meta. I just wish the meta would change because that Riot would look at the shields that are just so outrageous on the Summoner's Rift right now. You can, between redemption and some shield comps and all the healing and whatnot, a team can go through a skirmish, and a team that has no business winning wins a skirmish even if they're lower damage just because they are outlasting all of the cooldowns from the enemy team.
I mean, in all honesty, I think the fact that Warwick has that passive where he could just anyone on the map below 50% and he gets that huge passive. I don't know if you guys have played Dota 2 or not, but there's a character named Bloodseeker who has basically the exact same ability. Characters who are low health, he gets insane speed towards, and he's like known for being not particularly great at the highest tier, but it's like a massive pub stomper. And I'm kind of disappointed that Riot sort of just pulled that mechanic because it seems to. I really think that's part of his kit is too strong. Like he's just too quick.
I mean, it was kind of always in his kit.
It
just
was
in a very different way.
but it seemed a lot more controlled because it had an infinite range and you had to scale it in order to make that range bigger. But now he just gets it, just straight up. And then and if the passive's ever not enough, he can just activate it. Old Warwick didn't have that same ability to like
It was on or off.
yeah.
Right.
So they might need to like maybe look at being able to turn it on whenever you want, or they might maybe even need to make the global range of its scale over time, kind of
they
like the
just
other
have
global
to-
effects.
So Warwick right now, a lot of the, if you go in Champion GG, the skill order for Warwick is actually off for what a lot of people are doing, because a lot of people are dumping 2 or 3 points early into W and then maxing Q after, because you gain so much more out of having points in W than you do Q.
Yeah.
I think it's like an extra 4% extra life steal on Q when you max it compared to attack speed, move speed, and everything else that the W passive is giving you. The range increases too, doesn't it? The when you activate it.
No. Q or W?
W.
W's a flat 4,000, I think. I don't think it goes up,
Okay, I was thinking it did, but
which is still a crazy amount.
I mean, that's like almost TF ult.
I was about to check. I want to see what Twisted Fates. I should know this.
I think that's
but-
higher than
it's
the
like
TF ult, isn't it?
I think TF ult's like 5,500, right?
Yeah. But his isn't like constantly on. This W's always on.
I think it honestly needs to be a lot lower range early game. It probably needs to be like if he's at Gromp and then top lane's low, okay, yeah, he gets the move speed. But if he's at Gromp and there's a skirmish going on at Dragon, he shouldn't get the MS from there. Come on, like
It is 5,500 for TF.
Mm-hmm. Well, the number of times that like I've been in games with Sean and he says, "Oh, who's low? Thanks so much. I'm running around the map super fast." Like he'll be on one side, he'll be on top side, and then bot lane, like we get somebody low, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is the best because now I just get to run everywhere and clear super quick."
Yep.
Or Todd will get somebody low, and now Sean gets to just like sprint towards top lane.
And by the time he gets there, Todd's already killed him. So he
it's
flash ignite ulted, and it's all over there.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the movement speed and bonus attack speed that need to be nerfed, but just slightly, right? His
Something.
bonus attack speed is 50, 65, 80, 95, 110%. That's triple.
so much.
It's
That's
triple
so much
below
attack
with
speed.
targets below 20% life.
The problem is, I don't think we're gonna see anything for him until they look again at Cho'Gath, Mao, Sejuani.
Sure.
And they're looking at nerfing Elise again, and that's a pro play nerf, but I'm kind of like, come on, guys, leave her alone. You're beating the spider enough. But Warwick's just not on the radar for the most part, because you look at the rest of them, and it's like, yeah, sure, he could use a nerf maybe, and maybe some of the lower tier junglers could use a buff, but I mean, even Jarvan's getting a nerf now, and it's like, we got to look at these other champions first, and that's where their priorities are.
This
So we gotta-
is
Yeah.
This is going to be really preemptive to say, but I mean, I kind of have the feeling like he is sort of immune to the changes that are going to happen to the runes and masteries, just because what's good about him is all built into his kit. It's not like any of the other stuff outside the game is influencing him in that regard.
'Cause
So
you look at his keystone, he takes fervor most of the time, like 90% of the time. And in the jungle, you really don't get anything out of that until you start fighting. And yeah, it makes a difference in those 2v2 skirmishes and whatnot. But in terms of like actually like being a jungler, he doesn't really need anything specifically.
I mean, so in that regard, like if you're looking to next season and everything, and you're a jungler, like if you're not already playing him, Warwick might be the guy to pick up, just because he very well just might be immune to everything that goes on with runes and masteries.
And I think similar in that vein is probably going to be Nunu as well. I think Nunu and Warwick are going to come in the preseason, almost like Nunu usually comes in preseason pretty strong because he's relatively immune because masteries don't affect him too much. But I think those are the two that you're going to have to look at, but that's months away at this point. We're just kind of speculating.
Yeah,
But-
that's a good point.
Doesn't hurt.
Sure. Well, let's talk about Ornn. The fire below the mountain. We had spoke briefly about him last Monday, but he has finally made it to the Rift, and he's seen some play. His initial stats are staggeringly low. Like he's 30% of the jungle,
Below the win
32%.
rate. Like, oh boy, this guy is not doing so hot.
Right. And I mean, you can take that with a grain of salt because Kane was doing pretty much the same thing. He was like 38% when he first came out, and then he slowly creeped up to about 40. I think he's 45% of the jungle right now, 48%.
48 roughly. Yeah. He's in a good spot.
Right.
At the same time, like Ornn's doing bad enough that Riot already hotfixed him.
And he's still doing terrible with the hot fixes.
If you ask me, he deserves it. You can buy items out of the base. Come on, dude. I'm so mad about that.
Yeah, it's that the buying items out of the base really that's the thing that changes for later in the game, right? Like in the early game, sure, buying a
It
ruby
matters for
crystal is
lane.
pretty big.
Dude, it definitely matters for lane.
Oh, no, I
Ornn
understand that.
Ornn walks in a bush. What? Where did he get Bomby Cinder? He was gone for 2 seconds. Like,
Because the thing with Ornn in lane is in like the melee matchups, he's able to just like as soon as he gets like 300 gold, oh, I'm against 80. Looks like I have a cloth armor and I'm up in stats against you now. And now I just like kind of roll the lane until you back and I force your TP. But it's just not translating well enough because we've all mentioned this in the chat. It's his mana numbers are not great, and one rotation will put him at like half mana.
Yeah, I mean, and his mana costs are bad, and then everything he's doing is like really, really predictable, and that's kind of necessary given the amount of crowd control that he has available to him. But it's still just like, like if he queues, you know exactly what he's going to do from there. You know exactly what he's going to do, and it's not hard to get around it.
I mean, in my opinion, I think Ornn is like the classic tank of League of Legends in that respect. And what I mean by that is like, so think about like old Malphite. Like he might have like Q for damage in lane, but that was really all he did. You know, he really just was a CC bot come mid game, and he just tried to survive the early game to be that CC bot. And I think Ornn players are going to have to adjust, unless Riot just keeps buffing him, or Mike going to have to adjust to that play style. He has so much in his kit that benefits his team that it really wouldn't make sense for him to walk into a lane and just dominate you anyway.
Yeah.
After playing Sejuani, where you can queue up, what is it, her W, while you also use Q at the same time, it's really frustrating to turn around and play Ornn, where you, like, if you press his W, you cannot turn around and press E or anything and, like, charge at people. You're stuck in that W animation and everything, and you're moving forward and all that, but you're stuck in that animation until it ends and you can't do anything else. And, like, I get it. It makes some sense and everything. It just feels really frustrating when you see Sejuani doing, like, something comparable and you can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, if they made it so that you could end it early, I think you'd have to have the shield instantly drop.
Yeah, because
I'm more thinking like, why can't you press W and then charge? Or why can't you charge and then like press W while you're in it and everything and queue it up like that type of thing, or have it going basically when you arrive at the end?
Because he is unstoppable, so I'm assuming that kind of locks him out of anything.
That's all I'm talking about. Like they're just certain things that kind of don't feel great.
Yeah, and then at that point they'd have to change that mechanic and how that works, and some other things with him. It just none of it feels like none of his abilities feel great to max. Like Q, it's slow, and the little magma pillar you get behind it, it takes too long to pop up. And then your W, it just feels like the range is too short, and you're never actually going to get that second proc where you apply brittle on champions. I noticed that a lot when I was playing Jace. I've been played against a couple Ornns, and it's like, well, level 1, I kill you because we're bad. But for the most part in lane, it's like, all right, you W'd at me, I'll just kind of walk back a little bit and kite you, and you just lost that trade. All right, cool, let's go back to laning. None of it feels great as Ornn, unless you like queue everything up and you get a nice E knock up, and your jungler's there to help you, because once you E knock in, you really don't have too much follow-up damage after that.
Yeah, I mean, like Todd mentioned, you mentioned he's like a classic tank, but most of the classic tanks had some type of sort of reliable, even just soft crowd control coming out of them, and Ornn really doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, his Q does slow. I mean, if that's comparable, but again, it's not very fast.
Right.
It's very easy to sidestep.
It's not fast. It's also kind of small. I'm sure that as people get to play it more, they can combo the E into the Q, but with how slow it is, it's kind of hard to get somebody to walk toward your Q to slam them into it to get us.
Well, it's really hard to E in the Q because, again, that pillar takes 1.5 seconds to pop up.
I don't care, because he can also E into any other terrain.
Sure. But again, you just stay in the middle of the lane. Well, there goes a lot of your damage on one ability.
Yeah, but the same thing applies to Poppy.
Sure, but Poppy had Poppy's Q makes up for that by doing percent health damage.
Oh yeah, I agree in that regard and everything. And I kind of find it weird that he has current health damage on his W and not max health when most of the tanks tend to have max health damage on that type of ability.
I noticed that too. I think
because of
Riot
Brittle.
was really worried that he was going to dominate these tank v tank matchups, and he's just not doing it.
Well, I think it's because he's got brittle, right? Because if he's able to get that full duration of W and smack you, you're now brittle, and you're taking 7 to 16% of your maximum health.
Sure.
Which, yeah, I don't know. We had this conversation earlier today, and I say I don't know because I don't know how to transfer it in anything else. But I'm kind of sick of Riot just throwing so much shit onto a champion as well. Like, there's a lot of levers here to pull, but there's just so much fucking going on with Ornn that I don't know what I'm playing against, and I don't know.
Preach,
how to
my
make it
brother,
work.
preach.
I can slam people. I can make a wall. I can slam people into a wall, but I have to get my full duration of my W to get somebody to be brittle. And if I don't do that, they're not brittle. And then the Ram. Like, the Ram is slowing you when it comes at you, and then you have to reposition yourself to get it to stun. Like, it's just this really... I don't like his ultimate. I really hate that you have to reposition yourself. They did the same thing with Urgot. You have to constantly reposition yourself to be able to function, make the ult function, or whatever piece of his kit function properly.
I've seen too many people try to use his ult as an engage tool, and it's not. Use it more like it's Nami's ult. Like, it's follow-up engage, it's counter-engage, that type of stuff. It's really, really good in those types of situations, but if you're trying to use it to start a fight, you're going to be nothing but frustrated.
Yeah, it's definitely a zoning tool. It reminds me a lot of Nunu ult as well. Like, it's this big threat that, like, it's coming, right? Because you can see the startup, and it's so telegraphed, kind of like Nunu ult. And it's not a threat right away, but if you don't react to it. So, yeah, it's just a great zoning tool. That's definitely how it should be treated.
I will say I didn't feel like his ult was as responsive as I wanted it to be the second cast, I should say. There were times where I was like very purposefully trying to get it to go off the second time and it just wouldn't. And so I wonder if there are minor or if there are like usability things under the radar that are or under the hood, I should say, that are causing, some of these like win rate issues with him.
Yeah, because we talked about that last patch when Urgot got a lot of bug fixes and he shot up a little bit in win rate. I think Ornn could definitely use some of those, especially on his ult. I've noticed a lot of people just whiffing on it, mistiming it, or the just not understanding where the hitbox is and hitting it the wrong way and things like that. I think he could use some of that, and that would probably smooth things out a little bit.
Oh yeah, Urgot's way up. I hadn't been paying attention.
Urgot's up real high, and it's kind of worrying.
I think I looked earlier. I didn't even see.
I think he jumped like 10 ranks. I think he's
hovering right around 50 right now, but
yeah, but he's had the highest jump. No, he most improved.
Yeah,
he jumped 18 spots.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Urgot for sure is straight. They don't need to touch him right now.
Yeah, no, I think Urgot's probably Urgot's in a fine spot. Because I know there was talk of another round of Urgot buffs. I don't think they're doing that now, thankfully, but he's probably in a good spot. We'll see how long he stays there.
I think he's niche. I think we kind of talked about this like a week ago, I think, but it was mostly that he's really strong against melees, and he kind of has that, he's weak against ranged, but he's like super oppressive against melees. So like,
who is
what matchup dependent?
What site's got Urgot that high? Because Champion GG's got Urgot at 46.17%.
Reload your champion.gg.
He's about at 50 now. He's the most improved top laner on this patch.
Okay. Yeah,
according to their statistics.
Champion.gg has a really bad habit of using all of its cache data as the data you reference when you open it up. So I've taken to just refreshing it every single time I open.
Yeah. Also, we've kind of seen, we can transition a little bit unless anybody has something else they want to talk about with Ornn.
No, we're just waiting to see if it's bug fixes or actually mana issues that are causing.
I mean, we should cover what was hot fixed.
Oh yeah, that's fine. So hotfix is live. It was pretty much like the day after or maybe 2 days after. It was really quick after he got released. They upped his HP growth from 85 to 90. They upped his attack speed growth from 1.2 or 1.3 to 2. His HP regen went from 1.436 to 1.8. And his HP growth regen went from 0.12 to 0.16, and his ult got a cooldown reduction similar to Vi a couple patches ago when it went from 150 to 80 to 130 to 70.
The attack speed and the ult cooldown are the ones that kind of scream important
Jungler.
to me.
They scream that they're trying to slot him into the jungle, which I probably think is going to be his best role, but we'll see how that plays out.
Well, what was the next point you were going to bring up? You were
the rise of Vayne and solo queue again.
No.
Because again, we're seeing a lot of Twitch and Tristana bans, and now the two that are seeing the most play following those are Xayah and Vayne. And we've kind of been saying for a little bit, man, this is kind of a Vayne meta, isn't it? With all these tanks and frontliners that can't get too close. But boy, she's back with a vengeance from earlier this season.
I have to say, despite the Draven nerf, I have seen I played 4 solo queue games today, and Draven was on my team in every single game.
People like playing.
Yeah, no,
Draven.
I didn't think that was a meaningful nerf to Draven at all. Like, that was not what was going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get him out of it and everything, and it just means like if you're not doing well on Draven, you're doing way, way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of all the 80 carries, you see the most Vayne one tricks and Draven one tricks just because of how hard they can snowball. You really don't see like, oh man, I'm a Callista one trick.
Nobody is a Twitch one trick. Like, Twitch is the champion that people only pick up when he's really good.
False. I played with a guy named Diamond 5 Twitch yesterday.
You know what I mean, though.
No, I get what you're saying.
Like, Jhin one tricks, that makes sense. He's a fun champion to play. He's got interesting stuff going on. But Twitch, like, he's not really that fun to play when it comes
He's
down
a
to
meta
it.
champion.
Unless you really get excited by going stealth, and most 80 carries, like, don't. You only play Twitch, because he's popular in the meta for whatever reason.
He's very much in the vein of like, oh god, I'm trying to think of like a mid lane, like Cassio right now. Oh, that's not true. There was a lot of Cassio one tricks before she got reworked too. I don't know. Renekton always sees play, and he's generally kind of like a meta champion. Not right now though. He's
Thresh?
pretty...
Is that what you're going
Thresh
for?
is a good
Thresh
example.
is a good comparison, yeah. There's
Lucian's always a good example because everybody likes playing Lucian, regardless if he's meta or not.
Frankly, Janna is a good example there. Like, nobody is a Janna one trick because they want to be. They're playing a bunch of Janna because she's really good for whatever reason.
I played Janna for that exciting gameplay, Dom. I don't know what.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
talking about. Those flash alt engages. Come on, it's the best time.
It's fun to put a shield on and then just AFK in the lane.
There's auto attacks involved.
Oh my god, please, Janna players, you have auto attacks. Use them. You don't need to stand behind the 80 carry.
This is just a PSA to all support players. You have an auto attack.
Use it.
Use it.
Use it.
I was watching some bronze replays this weekend, and I'm like, this Nami only autoed like 5 times in the entire game. I'm like, just you're range into melee matchup. Just walk up and auto.
Walk up and auto. Walk up and auto.
Nah, too scared to get jumped on, man. That Leo
Oh,
is
it's
coming in my
lane. Come on.
face.
Support is so easy, to quote Afromo.
I have not been drinking. Maybe I'll play Vayne tonight.
Oh God.
I think I'm in on this one. I think
Do
I'm
it.
full in.
Are we just
Good.
gonna pull the full solo? I had a full solo queue comp where I was like, I played Jace top. We had a Yasuo, Lee Sin, Vayne, and I was like, ooh, that one didn't go so well.
Janna, was Janna your...
No, it was like Blitzcrank or Thresh or something. We got stomped that game. It was not a fun
Dude,
time.
you can make any comp work with Blitzcrank. All it takes is one hook, dude.
Yeah.
But you have to hit the hook for the comp to work.
Let's be fair. You can also ruin a lot of comps as Blitzcrank if you don't know how to hit those hooks.
Quick, grab the Amumu. Blitzcrank, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
this
no.
This is some Bronze League shit right now. Grab the Amumu.
He's low. We can burst him.
But he was up front.
Oh shit, his ult was still up. Now we're all dead.
All right, well, why don't we move into some listener questions since we got a whole bunch of those to get through. I guess I'm starting at the top because no one likes it when I jump through it.
Yes, start at the top.
Pony Tony writes in, late last season and to start this season, we had a lot of budget mages coming out of the support role, but now I see a few. Are AP support mages simply out of the meta right now? I was considering some rarely seen mages and wondering what you guys would think of characters like Lysandra and Ryze. What other mages might translate into good supports right now?
None of them. They suck, especially Lysandra and Rice.
I have spent a lot of time thinking about this question.
Lay it on me, Dom.
So the reason you're not seeing a lot of support mages is Ardent Sensor. But even if it wasn't Ardent Sensor, the problem with that support mages is like if you don't win your lane, if you fall behind on them, you're totally useless. We even saw this in Worlds and to start the season when people would pick Zyra and then they would not like crush their lane or they would fall behind or something. They were totally useless for the rest of the game. It's just very feast or famine, and the what did you call it earlier? God damn it! The welfare role is not the place where you really want to be like hedging your bets on winning the lane every single game.
Yeah.
That wasn't an insult directed at you.
No. It is what it is though. Like you're relying on other people to kill stuff in order to get gold. You're relying on time to pass in order to get gold. It's absolutely the welfare role. So.
And when we're seeing all these AP supports, a lot of them were, we saw Zyra. Zyra has good utility outside of her, like, just straight damage. Brand's a pretty good tank buster, even when he doesn't have items because he has % max health damage in his kit.
And he can fall back into a stun bot pattern.
Right. Vel'Koz has true damage.
So the other thing that I kept going back to was that in order for a mage to succeed in the support role, is that they need to be able to work with basically the mana pool they have to start. Support itemization is really, really unfriendly as far as improving the mana pool goes. There's a ton of regen in it, so if you can be patient and you know how to use your spells in that regard, it's fine. But if you have high mana cost spells, you're going to run into a lot of trouble once fight starts because you just don't have the mana pool to support it. And core support itemization for mages tends to be Rylai's and Liandry's, which don't have mana on them at all. You're also getting the support item along the way, whether you go Frost Queens or Eye of the Watcher. Those have mana regen, but they don't have mana on them. And then you're getting your boots. You're 4 items deep before you can even think about getting an item that has mana on it.
Right. And the 2 champions you mentioned here, Lysandra and Ryze, are both Roa champions for the most part, and Ryze is a tier champion. They need a lot of mana in their kit to be effective. And Lysandra especially, she's notorious for having really terrible mana costs because of her passive, as I'm putting in air quotes, that lets her get a free spell. Her costs are very, very high and just don't lend herself to being a great support champion.
I mean, just to compare, her Q, which is going to be the spell that you're trying to spam and poke with in lane, the Q cost on that is 85 mana at all ranks. Comparatively, Annie's Disintegrate starts out at 60 and only goes up to 80.
Right.
Like at all ranks, Annie's Disintegrate is at a lower mana cost. So that's the type of stuff you have to consider when you are looking at mages and trying to consider if they can be in the support role. That's why you would see some Talia support players, and you're probably not going to going forward because they just hit her mana costs.
Yeah, and her Q, it's a big one. I forgot about that. We were seeing a little bit of her.
I'm not a support expert, but as an outsider looking in, the pattern that I notice with all the support mages that are really popular, I think of like Veigar, Annie, Brand, Zyra, Vel'Koz. These are all characters that are low mobility, and they have tons of damage and crowd control on their core abilities. However their kit works out, they have CC, hard CC on their core abilities, and their base damages are all really high.
Yeah.
So it seems to be a pattern. So when people like Ryze who are required to scale too hard, you just need somebody with more base damage, I think.
The only champion I keep looking at and thinking, God, this champ could be a support, and it's only going to take like one streamer or professional or something to move her over there, is Orianna. And it's tricky. There's a lot of nuance to her kit, but I think she could do the job. She is better out of mid. I'm not trying to argue that she would be better out of support. I'm just saying if we're trying to look at mages that could function as these budget mage type things, she's the one that kind of keeps standing out to me as a candidate.
I mean, other ones we saw, and this was a while ago, we did see some support Syndra for a little bit out of LCK, which was interesting at the very least, but that was when she had her much bigger numbers anyway. I don't think you'd see that much anymore.
Gragas support is still good.
Gragas is fine. I don't know if we consider him
Yeah, Gragas support's fine, but I would put him in the
Mage.
tank category. I would put him in the tank category and not mage.
I consider him a mage. He's just like a bruiser mage.
Yeah, he's in that weird spot. Riot wanted him to be like this brawling mage, except he just kind of went like, I'm just gonna be a tank now because I have all the sustain in the jungle.
Like
Every time,
he's like Rumble's counterpart. You know what I mean? Just more CC, a little bit less damage.
He's the tankier Rumble that doesn't get to shove lanes in constantly.
every time I play him support, I'm just like trying to get as much cooldown reduction as possible so I can keep people locked down for whatever reason, and then like maybe I eyeball a Trinity Force later on or something because if I actually have the money. But
Did you see that Riot is potentially targeting his E interaction?
They're
with
looking
Flash?
they're looking at taking away, well, not taking away, but changing the way his Flash E works. So you can't like flash mid E into like minions and things like that to hit a champion.
they better hit Alistar shortly after that then.
Yeah, I think Alistar's fine because
No, I do too. I just think it's shitty if you strip that functionality from one champion but leave it up on others.
I mean they've done it before.
Yo,
yeah,
dog.
I think that's shitty.
Yo,
Yeah.
dog. What about a lease support? Because you get the
That was a
stun.
thing in season
Yeah, I was
3
gonna
when
say,
her
it used to be
base
a
numbers
thing.
were ridiculous.
I mean, she still has like % health damage, max and remaining.
Her mana
Yeah, but they
pool's
killed
really
her
small,
Q
though.
and they killed her mana, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it was a thing. You're not wrong.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was a top laner for a while because of that too.
She
when
was
Turtle-
a
Yeah, I remember when she was
Somewhere
top lane, dude. I would kill myself. Dude, that was season 3, dude. That was the worst season ever for top
That was a
lane.
pretty bad season for top lane because it was like Elise and then we had Renekton.
Jace and Kennen. Yeah, dude,
Jace
Renekton was
kind of fell out by the time season rolled through. He was an early like season 3 thing.
Was Zach?
But he was a
that
Zach solo
then?
queue thing all the way up until the
I mean,
end.
Jace is always a solo queue.
I mean, I've never played in Worlds. I don't know about you, but the solo queue thing always pissed me off.
Wait, was
Yeah.
season 3 the Zach top 2 as well?
Yeah, Zach came out that season, so we were seeing Zach top as well.
Yeah, those were like the two melees. It was like Renekton, Shen, and Zach. And then it was like
Yo, no, that was that was
There was
Shyvana's season too, right? Wasn't that the beginning?
Shyvana was
No,
season 4.
season 4 was
Yeah.
Shyvana, Mundo, and then Fnatic brought out Trundle.
Yeah,
and
'cause we-
proved me right and made you look like a big dumb idiot.
And that was the
Whatever makes you
TP
sleep at night.
Smite Cinderhulk top meta.
Right.
Yeah, that was dumb. I refused to participate in that crap.
That was fun.
Dude, season 2 was so good, dude. It was Lee Sin top and Riven top and J4
Udyr.
top and Udyr top, dude, and Tryndamere top, dude. Season 2 was so fun.
Olaf.
Oh yeah, dude, Olaf, dude.
And then Olaf got Olafed.
And there was no teleport, dude. You just went ham on a like a manly character with Ignite, and
Jesus Christ.
whoever had the bigger dick won. That was pretty much what it came down
That's
to.
how Todd plays his top lane. Whoever has the bigger dick wins.
That's why I want him to play Steel Legion, Garen. 'Cause he's got the biggest sword.
It's
His
massive.
dick is so big that he walks all awkward in that skin for some reason.
That I love that skin. It's like my favorite Garen skin.
All right.
All right, Soccer Fan 324 writes in, on your advice, I've been spamming one champion, Echo mid lane. Hey, Soccer Fan, $10 a month Patreon. We just released an Echo podcast last night. So I
Apparently we
noticed,
did.
and Camille comes out tomorrow. I noticed I struggle with CS and team fighting. My CS is always below average. I try to use the 70 CS at 10 minutes to gauge my performance, but usually I'm around 50. I've gone into practice tool and I think I do fine there, but it's completely different in game. Do I really need to just sit there in CS and practice for hours and end, or is there something else I can do? Also, how do you team fight as assassins? I usually just wait for an opening to kill a priority target or get a full combo off.
Second
All right.
thing, sounds like you're doing it right.
Yeah. So the first thing, because I actually suggested Echo. I suggest Echo a lot because the big thing with Echo is you kind of get to ignore laning phase because you just get to throw 2 Qs at level 1 and clear the entire wave. So if you're missing a lot of CS early in lane, one, check against other players and listen to the podcast. See what runes you're running. I don't know what they are offhand, but get an idea of what other Echo players are playing and just use those. And just watch your replays and see what you're doing in lane to be missing CS. For the most part, at the lower elos, mid laners especially have trouble harassing melee champions in lane without just like going or taking a bunch of creep damage back. So for the most part, an Echo, you really just want to kind of walk up, throw Q, and always try to use your proc when you can to last hit. It's very much like Zed in that if you get the 3 proc on a minion, you'll just as long as it's relatively low, you're gonna get the last hit. Zed just has the execute as well. So just kind of go back and look at your replays and see what you're doing in those first 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need to practice endlessly and practice tool to CS. It's a lot of getting a feel for when you can go up for CS, knowing your cooldowns, and when you should be throwing Qs to get your CS and things like that.
And when you should be using E to engage into a Q and then backing out to get the return damage.
Yeah.
Right.
Team fighting wise, yeah.
Sorry, it's what, 3 autos, right? He's got 3 auto passive.
Yeah, he's a 3-hit passive champion. We saw a lot of that year.
Right. So, yeah, I'd say one of the things with Echo definitely is it's obviously using Q to farm, and then you either have to decide, am I pushing the lane with using Qs, or am I zoning and going all in with my 3-hit passive with E? Generally speaking, you're just throwing Qs
you're pushing. You're pushing and you're looking to roam.
Right. So pay attention to how what you're doing with your Qs. If you're spending a lot of time trying to use those Qs to trade with the enemy, you're using your Qs wrong in lane, because the only time you're killing your enemy is if they fuck up or you get like a really good engage on them through like some kind of like surprise W. For the most part, Echo is just pushing, roaming, and getting cool W ganks off in the side lanes to get his kills and get snowballing. Then you come back to lane and just kill them through your damage.
In terms of team fighting, I mean, it's the same for a lot of assassins, is just keeping track of what CC cooldowns are up and what's available if they have exhaust or not. Echo kind of gets away with it a lot more than things like Katarina, Zed, Diana, because he has I'm in too deep, I'm out button with R.
And just speaking as a support who runs exhaust pretty frequently, I am like, if there's an assassin in the game, somebody else has to be doing really, really, really well for me to consider using exhaust on them instead of the assassin. Like Zed or Talon or something. It's like, okay, nope, the moment I see that champion and a fight's breaking out, like, they're getting exhausted, because I do not want that damage going on my carry and everything. So you should actively be paying attention to exhaust, especially because that's going to hamstring a lot of your damage. If you get exhausted, put the brakes on it. You might have already engaged in some respect, and you can't cancel a Talon ult or a Zed ult or something like that. But just get the fuck out and keep your cooldowns ready to go, so that when the exhaust is off of you, you can go back to doing the dirty work.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget that your your R does damage as well. So if you're in the middle of that team fight, you can always use R to try to execute. I wouldn't use it in the very beginning of the team fight to execute somebody, right? But you can use R to get that final splash damage or whatever it needs to be done, or continue on with the fight. You shouldn't exclusively be using your R to get out of a fight. You should be using it as a utility.
I mean, it's situation dependent.
Go
ahead.
On the topic of team fighting, he's talking about waiting for an opening, but you can kind of create your own opening depending on how you position. You can create an opening by flanking primarily. So if you picture, your team is maybe sieging and they're mid lane, and your team is 4 and they're 5 grouped, and you just walk behind one of the brush walls, for example, and you kind of pinch behind them, or you didn't have to be necessarily directly from behind. It can be from the side. And just ping your team, and then as long as everybody kind of collapse on the same target, you'll cut them off, and then that is your opening. You can kind of create that for yourself. Otherwise, you're just waiting for your team to either crowd control so you can go in, or you're waiting for somebody else to blow their escapes, so that way once you go in, you know that they can't escape from you anymore.
Mm-hmm. This is why Proto Belt's a pretty common buy on Echo, is it gives him a little extra gap close to get in with his E and just kind of get targets that are out of position. And just as a general, if you're playing these kind of flanking champions, whether it be a top lane tank or an assassin, sweeper and pink wards, people, make sure you're not standing on a ward when you do that. Otherwise, you're just going to instantly die.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is just patience. You got to be willing to wait for a second just to see other stuff go down, so that you can strike there with very few repercussions coming your way.
Yeah, so sweeper really is the pro tip. That's probably Garen's best damage item now that I think about it, because it frees up the brush. Right. And if you have a brush, that's an automatic kill. That's how that works. So,
All right. Well, let's move on to the next listener question. I hope that helps you out, and anybody else out there who might be playing Echo or some other kind of assassin has a better understanding of what they should be doing or looking to do while they're playing the game. A lot of those tips that we gave can translate well to Zed and whatnot, where you're not just trying to kill somebody in lane, you're trying to push and roam. So just keep that in mind as you're playing an assassin. KM Not Brights. I've been a jungle main for a while, but I felt that my individual mechanics and difficulty handling duels were holding me back, so I'm transitioning to top lane. Is this a good reason to move? If so, what champions might help me accomplish this goals better?
I have to say no, 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 no. If you feel like your mechanics and your dueling is poor, top lane is only going to accentuate that weakness.
Yeah.
But I also think if it's like trial by fire, right? Like eventually you're gonna learn those mechanics and you're gonna learn how to trade and duel as a top laner. So
I mean, yeah, that's a
it's
good
really
point.
how long do you want to take to become a better player, right? I don't think it hurts to learn a different role, but I think just stick to jungle. You'll get that experience anyway. Playing, Jarvan, for example, or Lee Sin or whatever, these dueling type junglers that kind of want to pressure the other jungler and invade, you'll get that experience and you'll get better. I mean, it's putting the games in.
I personally think if he wants to learn like maybe a different lane like that, I feel like mid might be a better fit than top. There's still that dueling aspect, but it's a lot safer overall. And there are aspects to the lane that don't require you to outduel your opponent. So you can build on those mechanics, but then still have like another way to win the game, like through roams and stuff. But if you go top, it's you got to win or you're gonna lose, and that might be very frustrating.
Yeah, top lane is as we've again mentioned before, top lane is a very swingy lane, and then you can get some real bad demoralizing games real quick if you're not comfortable with it.
I was gonna say that. Unless you decide that you want to play support, you're gonna have to learn to duel people, and even as support you have to learn to duel, because like Dom said earlier, you have to use your auto attacks, so you have to know when to trade and you have to use those mechanics to move around. So pretty much this entire game is about dueling the enemy at some point in time, so you really have to just throw that out to the wayside that says I can't do it, and learn and make yourself learn how to duel the enemy or learn those mechanics to make that work for you. Otherwise you're just holding yourself back, and you're going to be struggling the entire time and wondering why you can't win games or why you're not winning as many games as you should be. Dueling is such a huge aspect in League of Legends. That's why a lot of us find it fun. That's why Todd likes the top lane. That's why some people like the mid lane. That's why people like to play the invade junglers and dueling two people in the bottom lane. I mean, every time you're always dueling somebody.
It's why I love it. Go ahead.
Renekton's always the champion I go to when somebody's asking about learning top lane. I'm like, I mean, he's not in the best light as far as the meta is concerned right now, but I think in lower MMRs it's a lot less influencing than once you get up to like plat and diamond and everything. And so in that regard and everything, like Renekton, he has there's a lot of safety in his kit, a lot of healing. You don't have to worry about mana management or anything along those lines and everything. I just feel like he's a really good champion for learning top lane.
Yeah, he's very much of this is the bar to top lane. Can you lane against Renekton? All right, cool. And if you're a good Renekton player, you can beat those matchups. So he's very much an intro to, well, this is what top lane's about.
Let's answer one last question this evening. Kua writes in, how do you pick a duo queue partner? What do you look for, and is it better to play with someone who is higher or lower than you? And what roles make for good duo queue combos?
I don't duo queue, so I'm out.
I have a good answer for this. So just like anything else, you get better when you participate or you do that activity with people who are better than you are. So like playing an instrument, or playing a video game, playing sports, if you're going to have a duo partner, make sure they're better than you. Now, obviously, that sounds weird because that means that whoever's on the other side of that is going to, it's going to be the opposite for them. But you should just worry about yourself. If you are the one picking the partner, you should be trying to pick somebody better than you. Don't pick somebody who's your friend already, because you're going to get mad sometimes when you lose. And I have been there where it's like, you're not trying to like argue, but when your friend causes you to lose your promo match, like sometimes you might say something, in the heat of the moment, and it's just what it is. Like sometimes you take the game seriously in those rank modes. So, and then what roles make good for duo queue? Really, just any two roles that have synergy. A jungle and a solo lane, or like a duo queue bot would work great.
I actually disagree on the duo queue bot thing. When I duo with people, I actually prefer to duo with a mid laner or a jungler. And I know that sounds kind of crazy because you're sharing this lane with somebody else, but when it comes down to it, like the AD carry role tends to be pretty cut and dry from the moment you load into the game. You know exactly what the AD carry is going to be trying to do, and yeah, there are some laning nuances that might be frustrating or difficult, but laning is going to come to an end. But your mid laner and your jungler are going to have a lot of influence over the early stages of the game. And if you can synergize with either of those two people, you're going to do really, really well. Frankly, having that other person, the mid laner or the jungler, in comms with you can help you set up ganks to get your own lane ahead really well. Yeah. In that regard, I kind of feel like jungle or mid laner, pretty much, if you're top or bot, like that's the best. Those are the best people to duo with. And if you're playing jungle or mid, you can kind of duo with whoever you feel like.
Yeah, it's a lot of times when I see duo queues, I see the duo bots because whatever. But the ones that have the most success usually are top jungle, mid jungle. Because again, now it's not a 1v1 lane at that point, and it's not a solo queue 2v1. It is a coordinated 2v1 all for usually the majority of the game, because that jungler who's duo queued is going to usually camp for whoever he's with.
There you go. I think that answers your question. Other than how do you pick a duo queue partner? Just pick somebody that's positive. That's
what do you look for, real quick?
I don't duo queue. I stay away from duo queue anymore. I did it for a number of seasons, and I just never liked the duo queue experience. I like the trio or 5Q experience a lot more.
If I'm gonna int, I'm gonna int by myself.
That's right. That's how I do it. That's what my Yasuo support said last night as well.
Ooh,
who also told me that he's a poor Asian boy and cannot afford Sightstone. So that's his quote, not mine.
I mean, that is true. If he's feeding, he's probably a poor Asian.
When you only play with one friend, like the losses feel so personal for some reason.
So I don't do it with my brother anymore. Like for that reason, I don't do it with my brother anymore. And like I like playing with him and everything, but we would lose and it just felt so personal. And I would spend every waking moment criticizing his play, and he would criticize mine. And because we're family, we were more inclined to share that criticism, when it would have been better off to just not bring it up at all and let everything die, because it's a game. But so we do normals together and everything, and that's fine because neither of us is that invested. But I don't do ranked with him anymore because it was causing more harm than good.
And probably a lot of our listeners need to do the same thing with some of their duo queue partners. Need to figure out if it's actually worth their time to duo with that person, because we get a lot of questions, and so is toxic or this and that. What do I do? Well,
stop playing with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hedge your bets and get rid of him. So
yeah.
Well, we'll leave it there. I think that's enough for this episode. I really enjoyed our conversation earlier, and I hope you guys did as well. That's speaking to Warwick, Vayne, and Ornn. And guys, don't forget to check out Buddha Boxers, BUDDHA boxers.com/TForce. Use code Trinity Force for 20% off. Other than that, I think we'll be back Wednesday with... we're just going to have a general tips discussion on Wednesday. Dom won't be here, so we're going to fill this in. I'm going to throw a bunch of the information, or I'm going to throw a bunch of information out there, and hopefully Dom can make it look pretty tomorrow before he is gone. And we'll leave it at that. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, listening to us ramble for an hour, 2 hours every single week. And we will be back on Wednesday with some more information for you guys. Have a good evening, and peace.